Happy Friday, friends. It's Kaycee McCoy with Captivate Digital Marketing. And as promised, it's circa 12 p.m. And I said circa because I knew Fridays, things are just kind of running. And I knew that the day might get away from me a little bit before jumping on here. But if you are tuning in, I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about branding and rebranding. If you caught my blog that I shared on Monday of this week, my blog was all about how I had a client before I even had a business or an idea for a business, and just kind of the chaotic launch of this whole company in general, which is a really interesting, fun story. But in there, I also showed a little bit of a glimpse into where I started, and now where we are with the brand. So today, this company is called Captivate Digital Marketing. However, when I started, it was called Happy Kaycee Productions. There is a reason behind that, and I alluded to this in the blog. And once again, I'm going to say, I'm not going to share it today. Not here, not today. But I will tell you that there is a really big shift and evolution in the branding of my business. And so as a marketer and a branding expert myself, I understand how challenging that branding process can be when you're just starting out, or how challenging and intimidating it can be if you're already established and you want to rebrand for one reason or another. So I just wanted to jump in here today and talk to you a little bit about what inspired me to rebrand, how you can kind of notice those indicators of what might make you think I might need a rebrand, or if you are new to a business and you're starting out and you're trying to develop that really strong brand, how to go about it. Just some tips and tricks for you of how to get the ball rolling a little bit. Hi Tara, thanks for joining. So Tara, I'm just going to talk a little bit about branding and rebranding. And so for me, I want to share a little bit more of my personal story of how I came to the rebranding process. I've talked about it in a few different places. If you listen to the Inspired Women podcast, I've been interviewed on there on episode number 10 by Megan Hall, and she talked to me about how to pivot and what that meant in my business. So I started out as a freelancer, and to me at the time, branding really wasn't important because I was in such a mad dash to get this business running, because I did have a client before I had a business or even an idea of what to do for a business. And it was kind of a crazy backwards process. But I just ran with Happy Kaycee Productions because I've been referred to as Happy Kaycee. If you know me, you know I am pretty bubbly. Sometimes it can be a little obnoxious. I've been told I'm extra. I've also been told I'm candy coated. So I just thought, hey, I don't know what else to call this. I've just got to run with it and get started. So I'm a fan and a proponent of not necessarily having things be perfect before you throw it out into the world. You just do it and you run, and if you need to revise and adapt along the way, that's okay. That doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. That doesn't mean you don't take it seriously. You just grow as you go. So I started out freelancing, and my business was solely referral based. I didn't really network. It was just I started with one client, that client turned into another client, that client referred me to another one, and it just started to kind of slowly build. Fast forward a handful of years, and I found myself at kind of a make or break point. I was exhausted, I was burnt out, and I had uncovered the truth that I'm one person and I can only do so much work without totally burning myself out and making myself go nuts. So I wanted to figure out how to scale. How do I scale and grow? And I was finally at that point where I'd flailed through a lot of the kind of initial startup phases anyway, that I had enough experience under my belt and some good mentors to look up to that I thought, okay, I'm going to see if I can make this work. So I ended up going and doing a little bit of networking. Well, that evolved over time, and I found this workshop because I was doing some networking, And I'm a pretty outgoing person, but I was really struggling with this networking thing. It was really intimidating to me for someone to say, so what do you do? Because I would say, marketing. Okay, well, what does that mean exactly? That means a lot of things. Everything. And I either said everything and their eyes glossed over, like, okay, crazy, like you can't do everything. Or they would also, so I would sometimes list, be like, oh, well, websites and graphics and social media and blogging and email campaigns, and start listing the array of services I could provide, because I've always been a yes person. Yes, Tara, networking does seem scary and challenging. It really can be. Even for the most outgoing individuals, putting yourself out there, especially as a business person for the first time, can be really intimidating, because that was the real first step for me of saying, you know what, I am a legitimate business owner and I believe in myself and I believe in the work that I do and I want to see it grow. And it really made it really real. And so that was kind of terrifying. And I got very intimidated by all these people who I, had seen online and I'm meeting in person for the first time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm fangirling the heck out of some of these people. So, I started to do that, and I started to see this pattern of where I wasn't really making good connections, and I had to figure out why that was. Was it, because I rambled on too long and I lost them in the conversation, or was it that I just cut it short and didn't elaborate, so they didn't see how much energy and passion and excitement I have for what I do? I was just kind of flip-flopping back and forth between those 2 points. And so what I wanted to do is figure out, how do I bring it all together in a nice, pretty little package and put a little bow on it, so that I'm clear and I'm cohesive and that it makes sense to people. When I'm at these events and meeting new people, I really want to make a good impression. So I went to a workshop called Ditch the Pitch. And that is a workshop that's put on here at the BizConnect Resource Center, where my office is located. And so Ditch the Pitch, I really just wanted to come in here and get Marcia Brody, who is the workshop presenter. She's really good at networking. She's just a really fun, funny, smart lady. And I saw the opportunity to come learn. Hey, Christy, thanks for watching. I just really wanted to go and get her expertise on how I could package this up and, sound more professional and put together and confident in a way. So I came to her workshop and it blew my mind. It really flipped my world upside down, because what it made me realize was way more, that I needed to do way more than what I was. What I was expecting to get out of that workshop ended up being blown out of the water by what I actually got out of it. Yeah, Christy, Marcia is amazing. If you know Marcia Brody, you love her. She's just incredible. So I went through the workshop and it really opened my eyes, and I'm going to shorten this story up as much as possible, but it really opened up my eyes to see that the vision I have for my business and the things that I want to accomplish and the amount of people I want to be able to help and the value that I want to put into the world didn't match how I was branding myself or my business. So I immediately, after the pain and agony of being like, oh my gosh, I'm so mad at myself. How have I been doing this wrong for so many years after doing this for other people? How did I let myself get to this point? After releasing that anger and saying, it's okay, moving along, we'll just change it now. So I went through the rebranding process. And what I had to do, and what you can do if you're in the branding process and trying to come up with a really strong, smart professional brand for your business, is there are a few things that you want to think about. The first thing I always think about with my clients when we're going through this process together is go back to those core values. The core values of your business. And if you're a solopreneur like me and you may want to infuse some of your own core values as just a individual into that, it's very helpful to know what those core values are and really who you want to help. You have to know your target. You have to know how you can help the most. Oh, Tara, Guam internet is sketchy. Sorry your internet's sketchy out in Guam, but that's really cool that you're tuning in from Guam. That makes me feel really special. So what you want to do is think about those core values, and that's always the first place you want to start with any branding you're doing, whether it's a brand new startup or a rebrand. So once I started with my core values, I started thinking about, okay, so what's my overall big time goal? And what are my goals for this next year? Break them down. Think about the things that really matter to me and matter to this company at the end of the day. Who we are, what we want to do, who we want to help, and how we want to get there. So once you start thinking about your core values, it really guides you through this process, and you just have to keep going back to those sometimes, because it's really easy to kind of have shiny object syndrome, which if you know me, I have, and I suffer from on a daily basis. So you know that it's easy to succumb to the distractions, especially when we're solopreneurs and we're running 100 miles per hour and wearing all the freaking hats in our businesses, right? It can get really chaotic. So you want to think about your core values, and that'll really help you in that branding process. Now, if you're already an established business and you're thinking, I don't know if I'm really hitting that target market. I don't know if I'm really presenting myself the way I want to. I don't know that I'm attracting the clients that I'm hoping to work with or that are my ideal. So you might be seeing some of these indicators that maybe it's time for a rebrand. And I just mentioned those because those are some of the indicators that I had when I went through that workshop. It really opened my eyes to, okay, so maybe I am struggling so much with what I'm doing because I'm not helping the right people. I'm not helping the people that I want to help the most, or the people that I just naturally are kind of my jam to work with. So seeing that really helped me decide that, it is time for a rebrand. So there's a lot of steps in the rebranding process, and it can be really intimidating, especially if you're already you have a good client load, you're kind of running through the motions already, your plate's pretty full. To put yourself through that branding process in the midst of all of that can make things feel really messy and crazy and chaotic and stressful. So what I did is I gave myself time. I just straight up said, this is not life or death. I will figure it out when and where I can. So you just have to kind of give yourself that permission sometimes to kind of just work through it at your own pace. So what I did is I said, okay, it's right before the holidays, after I kind of had this epiphany, went through that workshop. And so I thought, all right, the holidays are coming up around the corner. I've got some time to set aside and dedicate to this, because I was getting ready to go on a big old hefty road trip. So over the holidays, my husband and I drove a 2-day trip halfway across the country to visit family. And so when we were doing that, I took my notebook paper and my clipboard and my pen, and I brainstormed. I just word association filled several pages front and back of different words and phrases and combinations of those words and phrases together that I liked. One of those phrases that I came up with was create, captivate. I just thought it was kind of catchy. I like the alliteration of it. And it just seemed to fit perfectly. But wouldn't you know, when I went to look to see if the domain was available, it wasn't. It was taken. And that can be one of the most frustrating experiences of when you are planning out your branding process or trying to start your business and really launch a new marketing campaign or whatever you're doing. Getting that domain, man, there are so many good domains that are either taken by a legit business already, or they're taken by those people who just go buy domains and then sell them for tens of thousands of dollars later. I wasn't about to pay tens of thousands of dollars for my domain. I'm too frugal for that. I am bootstrapping this business. That's just not an option. So as disappointed as I was, I said, you know what? I'll figure it out later. Well, since I was signed in to my hosting account and looking at those domains, what do you know? After the first of the year, I was sitting at my desk, and what pops into my email but a little reminder from the company, the hosting account that I have, saying, hey, guess what? CreateCaptivate.com is now available. Holy mother. I couldn't buy it fast enough. I couldn't have gotten luckier and bought it quick enough at that moment. So, so that's another process to think about is, making sure with your branding and your name that not only is the name available, you have to go and search the, the state corporation commission to make sure the business name is available, and also go and make sure that those domains, and so that you're going to be able to pull your social media profiles, that there's not someone else using those already. It can be a very tedious process, but we have a checklist that we go through with a rebrand. So we just make sure that everywhere across the web is cohesive and it makes sense and it's launched all at the same time, so that it makes sense and it doesn't confuse people either. So that's kind of my rebrand story. And so I just spaced it out over time. And it finally all came together with the launch of the blog and the website on the 1st of this year. Even though the rebrand process started in April of last year, is when I started to kind of do the things of, I have my LLC, so I just did a DBA and started the kind of behind the scenes process that way. And then finally, all came together with this CreateCaptivate.com blog launch. Hey, Monica. So that's some kind of insight into the rebranding process and how our team works with our clients on kind of pulling that all together. Is we go through and we ask a lot of questions. We need the insight into your world. If you have an idea already, cool, we can work with that. We're going to make sure and go through the checklist of, are you really sure about this? Does this really work for your business? Is this really who you're going to target? Is this really, what you want to brand yourself as and who you want to attract? So we just make sure that everything's on point, that there's no ambiguity, and that your questions are all answered through the process. I also do a brand audit or a brand review service. So I do want to just mention that real quick, because I've had clients come to me and say, I've been tossing around the idea of rebranding, but I'm just not sure. So the brand review process goes through and we analyze your logo, your font types, your color schemes, your overall style, your overall message, your tone. All of that comes together to form your whole brand. And we just take a look at all of that. We have a good conversation, an hour-long consultation to make sure, what you're saying and who you say your business is also is appealing and attracted to how you've branded your company. So that's just some of the ways that we can help with branding, that I can help with branding or rebranding. There's a lot more steps to it than that, but that's kind of the brief version, enough for now anyway. So I just wanted to jump on here and share a little bit more about rebranding, the branding process, what it means, and how to go about it. Give you a little insight, a little inspiration maybe. And if you have any further questions, you can always check out the website at createcaptivate.com. I am available for phone calls, consultations, whatever you need. So just thanks for tuning in. If you have any more questions, just let me know and I'm happy to answer them for you. Hope you all have a happy Friday.